don't you roll me inside? We'll get the nurse to take the catheter out of me.
We don't need nurses for that.
But don't you have to...
The sad truth about it is, that's probably one of the funnier gags of this movie. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 5 films that make up November 14th, 2014. And there was no bigger new release that weekend than Dumb and Dumber 2. Finally, after 20 years, we get the official sequel to Dumb and Dumber, and not that Dumb and Dumber When Harry Met Lloyd crap, you know. That was a movie where everyone hated, and just like, look, we got Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels coming back, the Farrelly brothers are coming back here. This is going to be an all-around great movie that everyone's going to love. And, let's talk about it. It's been 20 years, and Harry Dunn, played by Jeff Daniels, has found something out. He has a daughter. Lloyd Christmas, once again played by Jim Carrey, his equally dim-witted friend, takes one look at a picture of her, develops a crush, and insists the two track her down. What ensues when Harry finally agrees on a bizarre encounter with an old lady, and more hilarity because of the sheer stupidity, just like the way I said that. What ensues when Harry finally agrees is a bizarre encounter with an old lady, and more hilarity because of their sheer stupidity. There we go. I completely botched that together, but... this was the movie that kind of started this trend of, let's make forget doing remakes of movies, let's make sequels. Let's make sequels to films way after the last film came out, because, we had, Anchorman 2 and The Best Man Holiday the year before, which ended up being really good movies. I ended up liking both of them a lot. And I usually go into movies like this that have sequels that come way after the last movie with a lot of trepidations, because the predecessors are so good. And to make a sequel and take this long to do, especially with a film like Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber is a classic movie. Yeah, I went into this with a little bit of concerns, but I figured it's got to be better than Dumb and Dumber, and it is, but at the same time, it's kind of not. I mean, I like it better than Dumb and Dumber, but at the same time, it's just like my morning trip to the bathroom provided something much better than Dumb and Dumber was, but I won't delve into that because, well, too much information. But then again, Dumb and Dumber has the more memorable moments of it. Toy boat. Dumb and Dumber has more memorable moments to it than this movie does. I can guarantee you that. And, at least Dumb and Dumber has stuff that did make me legitimately laugh. This one, I like it, but it has a ton of flaws to it. And the biggest flaw is that it does copy a lot of the plot and the same tropes from the first Dumb and Dumber. You have so many elements that are taken from the first film and brought into this film with different consequences. Like, for example, you got Laurie Holden from The Walking Dead and Rob Riggle playing the bad guys, and they're very similar to Karen Duffy and Mike Starr from the first movie. Rob Riggle joining Harry and Lloyd is similar to what happened with Mike Starr's mentor when he joined them on the journey in the first film. Penny Pitchlow, Rachel Melvin, is in the same fashion as Mary Swanson, Lauren Harley from the first movie. Lloyd's dream sequence is similar to the one he had with Mary in the first film. The Ken conference at the end is like the dinner gala at the first movie, and just like other elements taken from the first movie. And as somebody who really loves the first movie, you can easily spot where they took a lot of elements from the first film and just redid them all over again. It's basically a Here We Go Again sequel. For a sequel that's 20 years after the first movie, you'd think they'd try something new with the characters that hadn't been done before. But no, it's just going back to the same tropes we've seen done over and over and over again. And once again, the biggest problem with the movie was something very similar to another Universal comedy released in 2014, and that's Ride Along. So at this conference, where Penny is set to speak, Harry and Lloyd can't get in without a ticket. They try to force themselves in dressed as scholars in graduates, capes, and robes. It fails, so one scientist comes around to hear that Penny is there with her father. He mistakes Harry for Bernard, who's like this, he's like this, intelligent person. He's an intelligent scientist, and he invites him and Lloyd to join the first seminar. The part that bothers me the most is that the scientist says that nobody's ever seen this guy, Mr. Pitchlow, in person before, and a couple things come off the bat right away. First of all, nobody's ever seen a picture of this guy. He's supposed to be this great guy, and yet nobody has one single picture of him. Like, Ride Along had the exact same problem. The Atlanta police couldn't figure out who the bad guy was since they didn't have a picture, with my argument being that if the police can't figure out how to make a what's this person may look like photo today, how the hell are they supposed to know who this guy is? There's a photo of him where he has a child. Like, you need to tell me that they don't have the computer system where they could take a picture and advance the age to what it looks like today. I mean, this was before AI became the norm. So why isn't it in this? Why wasn't it in the film? Because the filmmakers think it makes too much sense. It's like, if you have to steal from The Tourist, which has the exact same plot, you're doing something really wrong. The Tourist is a piece of shit. And if you're stealing from that movie, you clearly have something wrong with you. And here's why this makes no sense. There has to be some idea of what this guy looks like. Hell, the daughter doesn't have a photo of him or something that they can use as a reference. And the other problem I have with this is that if this conversation has if this convention had some of the smartest people in the room, why would anybody look at Harry and think to themselves, you know, this guy is the famous Mr. Pitchlow? And it's just kind of like, what? Like, towards the end of the film, this plot just gets way too confusing for its own good, especially in the final conflict. It's just like, there's parts of it that can easily be understood, but then they just start throwing all this shit at the wall that makes no sense whatsoever, and just pop out of nowhere. This thing makes no sense whatsoever. And what really pisses me off about this movie is that they made such a big deal about the truck being back from the first movie. You know, the poster has the truck as, you know, Harry and Lloyd just going up the hill and coming out of the truck and all that. There's one scene where they find that truck, they drive it, they get over a hump, the truck falls apart, and then they use a Zamboni truck that was at the same impound lot. It's just like, that made me so mad when I first saw that, because it's just like, so you were only using that for a cheap gag, and all you can think to yourself is, and all I can think to myself is, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you wasted rebuilding that truck for a 20-second gag. I mean, you couldn't have used the truck more in the film. I mean, Seabass from the first movie has more scenes in this than that truck does. And he's in the post-credits. Like, he's barely in the movie at the very end. Now, I'm going crazy on this, thinking, like, this is a terrible sequel. It's not. It's just, the rest of the stuff, it does work. I mean, Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels still have that great chemistry together as Harry and Lloyd. You can definitely tell they wanted to get back together. It's not like another American Reunion. This feels more like Best Man Holiday, where you can definitely tell they wanted to come back to this. I mean, granted, Jim Carrey doesn't usually do sequels, and he's been kind of on a lull since around this point in time, but, I mean, he seemed like he wanted to come back and do this, and it was great to see them coming back once together again. I mean, that was great to see. I like the new cast members they brought in here. You got Kathleen Turner having a really good role in here. I mean, it's definitely a performance that works better for her than some of the other movies that try to put that the way that people looked at her back then is what I'm trying to say. But, you know, Rob Riggle, I was starting to get tired of seeing him after in Let's Be Cops. He actually did make me laugh in this. He actually has some of the funnier scenes in the movie. Like, you see a little bit, if you see the full trailer, where he can camouflage as all these different things. And that's a funny little gag there. There's even a pretty good cameo in there, and I'm not going to say who it is, but, oh, who am I kidding? It's been 12 years. It's Zombieland. Bill Murray's in his movie, and he has a good cameo there. It actually is really fun. I actually like that they did use some of the original characters. You got Billy from 4C with the original actor, and he was actually really good. And like I said, the guy who played Seabass is in this movie, and he actually did have a couple decent scenes at the end. The comedy overall is solid. It didn't just go for straightforward gross-out jokes. I mean, pretty much like the first movie in general. When they used the gross-out jokes, it was funny. Like, of course, the memorable scene in the first film is the toilet scene. And, you know, that worked very well. It's the greatest toilet scene ever. Second only to Van Wilder, even though that Van Wilder literally uses the same noises from Dumb and Dumber. But there are clever comedic moments and really silly comedic moments. It's a meshing of what works. So this movie really isn't a mess overall. It's just, the stuff that they pull off in this movie is just ridiculous, and it just really feels like they were basically just doing, you know, the same stuff we saw in the first movie, and it's a plot that starts off kind of interesting, but then just goes gonzo by the end of it, not in a good way, but ends up being saved by the chemistry of Daniels and Carey, and a lot of really funny and silly comedic set pieces. I think the best way to watch this movie in general is to not expect something as funny or great as the first film, which after 20 years, why would you even think that? But it's a fine movie overall. I'm still debating whether or not if I like Dumb and Dumber a little bit more than Dumb and Dumber 2, and it really is neck and neck, because I think Dumb and Dumber has a lot more funnier moments in it. The movie itself is not really all that great, but this one's mostly just forgettable overall, but I mean, I don't know. It goes back and forth with me. I mean, it's a decent movie, but it's not the one that's going to have that legacy that the original Dumb and Dumber had. I mean, most of you out there even remember this movie even came out? Yeah, I wouldn't blame you, because, yeah, it's been, 12 years? This movie doesn't have that same memorability as the original Dumb and Dumber. I mean, the original Dumb and Dumber is more memorable now than it has been before. I mean, it's going to get a resurgence now with the news that Tubi is going to be putting the Dumb and Dumber animated series on the streamer, along with all these other great Cartoon Network shows we all grew up with. So, yeah, that's going to be fun to see. But, I mean, the Dumb and Dumber animated series is more memorable than Dumb and Dumber 2. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know about this. Yeah, I've gone on for like 10 minutes now talking about this movie overall. Overall, it's fine, I guess, but it's a sequel that I immediately forgot about, and I think a lot of people immediately forgot about it as well. So that was the big new release this weekend. Who's going to combat with Harry and Lloyd? How about Gooba and Bathara in Beyond the Lights?
Sort of cry for help. When I needed a mother, you were always my manager. I need to say something.
Beyond the Lights, rated PG-13, now playing.
Speaking of stuff that's been done to that before, yeah, tell me if you've heard this story before. Romance ignites between a troubled young singer on the cusp of stardom and a handsome young cop with political ambitions in this drama about the power of walking your own path. Noni Jean, played by Gooba and Bathara, who really is an actress I've really enjoyed. I thought she was really one of the best things about that terrible show Undercovers, which was on NBC at the time, but she plays a talented singer whose ethereal voice has taken the world of music by storm. A glimpse beneath the surface, however, reveals a girl who's cracking under the pressure to top the charts. When Noni tries to end it all, concerned cop Kaz Nickel, played by Nate Parker, pulls her back from the ledge and shows her that life is still worth living. Along the way, Noni and Kaz fall head over heels in love. Meanwhile, the powers that could be conspired to keep them apart, as well as focus on their respective careers. But without Kaz's love, Noni may never find her true voice. And this movie really doesn't really find its true voice overall. The best thing I could say about the movie is Gooba Bathara, who really does show that she indeed has the potential to be a great leading star, and sadly, nobody really ever took her on that, really. She's really mostly just gone back to, like, these much smaller roles in general. I think her biggest role since then was playing the Plumette from Beauty and the Beast, and yeah, that's about it. I mean, she hasn't really done a whole lot of noteworthy things since then. She's been mostly in a lot of lackluster films in general. And this film, I really didn't like it. I really thought it was underwhelming, especially considering that this came from the same director who did Love and Basketball and The Woman King. I mean, this is a woman who knows what she's doing as a director, and it just can't get away from the lackluster story that we've seen done to death before. This is basically a black version of Star is Born, and not really a good version of it overall. And we've had a better version of Star is Born that will come out later on this decade. I mean, the performances overall are fine, besides Mbathara, who I think really is the best thing about it. Nate Parker's okay in here. Minnie Driver has some good moments in here. Danny Glover's pretty good. Machine Gun Kelly actually has a decent role in this film, but yeah, other than that, though, there's nothing really that amazing about this movie. It's largely forgettable, except for Bathara's performance in this, which actually, her singing in this actually did lead to this film getting an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song, which, of course, in that year, you really weren't going to beat out a film like, was there a Disney Everything is Awesome, which I think was, yeah, Everything is Awesome, which came out this year and won the Oscar for Best No, it didn't. Oh, Glory won. Okay, from Selma. Okay, my mistake. I completely apologize for that. But you know, it was a tough list overall to be involved in here with this, with Selma, Begin Again, and a Lego Movie. Yeah, it was a tough category overall. But yeah, it was a good movie. What am I saying? It's a good movie. It's an okay movie. It's nothing amazing, nothing spectacular. The only thing that really stands out about it is Mbathara, who I think really does give the film that light it needs to show that it's above a normal mediocre film. It's okay. I'll just say that. It's just an okay film. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to easily one of the best movies of this weekend. Jon Stewart making his directorial debut based off of a story about somebody who used to work on his Daily Show, and that is Rosewater.
Now is the time.
Rosewater, rated R, now playing.
So remember back in 2013 when Jon Stewart took the summer off and went on to direct this movie, and John Oliver basically took over, which eventually led to him getting his own show on HBO, which for a little bit was actually a lot better than The Daily Show was, but it still is very good. But yeah, that's what this movie is. This is basically a political drama based on a real story that happened with a lot of people involved in The Daily Show. So in 2009, a London-based Iranian-Canadian journalist, Mazir Bahari, is detained in Iran after he reports on violence against protesters on the country's presidential election, as well as giving a satirical interview with Jason Jones in The Daily Show, while his pregnant fiancée waits for him. Bahari spends 118 days at Evin prison before brutally interrogated. Gee, this doesn't sound familiar to something that's happening nowadays, but yeah, this is a movie where it was mostly, I think, forgotten because Nightcrawler had just come out a couple weeks before, and it got a little more attention critically and commercially, and rightfully so. It's a great movie, and sadly, this film kind of got pushed off to the side. It did decent business at the box office, and did okay. It did pretty good in terms of, critical reception overall, but was sadly largely forgotten since it came out, and it's a shame because this movie really is an impressive feat, especially from a guy like Jon Stewart, who you don't expect. This was before. Keep in mind, this was before people like Jordan Peele and Zach Cregger, these guys that were mostly known for comedies, were essentially branching out into these other forms of entertainment. Like Elizabeth Banks is another example of that. But this is a movie where you get to see Jon Stewart really show off what he's able to do as a filmmaker, and he really knocks this one out of the park. Gael Garcia Bernal plays Bahari, and he is really a great actor in this movie. He really is giving a solid performance that you really do buy into straight from the get-go. You got Claire Foy, who's doing really well in this, playing the pregnant fiance. I mean, everybody in this movie works very well. The best aspect about this movie is that it takes you by surprise. When you hear Jon Stewart directing a film like this, your first thought is, okay, this guy mostly is known for satirical comedy, but he's making a serious movie. Surely this can't possibly fail in any way, shape, or form. Wink, wink. And surprisingly, it doesn't. It works very well because Stewart really does put his heart and soul into making this film as a serious project. You could tell that he did everything he could possibly do to tell the story he's passionate about in a feature film. He's not half-assing it here. He's doing a lot of effort into this. I mean, the guy left his show for summer to work on this movie. So yeah, it's got to turn out to be good if he's doing all that. And I think it is a movie that sadly got overlooked when it first came out, but like I said, it's a timely movie considering what has happened to the world since then. Not just in Iran, but also here in the States as well. I mean, it's a timely movie, especially for today's marriage, and it showcases the impressive directing abilities of what Jon Stewart is capable of doing here. And he would direct one other movie in 2020. I think it was Irreplaceable or Irresistible. It was the one with Steve. It was the one with Steve Carell in it and Rose Byrne. Irresistible, that's what it was, which was fine, but definitely not as good as this movie was. Kind of the equivalent of Zach Braff's follow-up to Garden State, even though that Wish I Was Here was much worse than Irresistible was. Irresistible was just passable at best, but this really is a movie that shows what Jon Stewart's capable of as a filmmaker, and I really do recommend people check this movie out. It does show his abilities as a filmmaker, and it's a movie that should have gotten a lot more attention when it came out. It's a great film, one of the best movies of the year. Rosewater, excellent film. And we'll see Steve Carell in just a little bit because he stars in another one of this weekend's best movies. But before we get to the good stuff, we have to go to our steaming pile of crap. And nothing says crap like Kirk Cameron trying to convince you to celebrate Christmas the way he wants you to celebrate it in Saving Christmas.
Do you ever feel like Christmas has...
This is not what Christmas is all about.
If that wasn't bad enough, the first warning sign should have been the fact that Kirk Cameron's production company is called Cam Fam Studios, which sounds like a name of a porn company than a company owned by this now ultra-Christian Kirk Cameron. But yeah, this movie is just... wow. Kirk Cameron stars as a fictionalized version of himself. He's trying to convince his fictional brother-in-law, played by the director of this movie, Darren Doan, that Christmas is still a Christian holiday. What it really is 80 minutes of Kirk Cameron basically bashing every single person out there. It's not even a movie that's so bad it's good. It's a movie that is just so bad it's bad. I mean, this thing is abysmally awful. You want to know how bad this is? This is right up there with Surviving Christmas, Deck the Halls, Christmas with the Cranks, are some of the worst Christmas movies you will ever see in your entire life, and people knew it from the get-go. It was a flop when it came out. It was universally panned. It got a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you realize how low you have to be to get a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes? The Master of Disguise has a 1% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's how bad it is, people. Just to give you kind of an idea of where this movie lands, we've got a list of movies that I've covered on Time About the Movies and Time About the Movies Flashback. Let me go ahead and show you this lovely list that this movie is on with films that we've taken a look at. Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol, Problem Child, Highlander 2: The Quickening, Return to the Black Lagoon, Folks, Look Who's Talking Now, Wagons East, Simon Says, Three Strikes, Ballistics X vs. Ever, Pinocchio, National Lampoon's Gold Digger, Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2, Red Line, One Missed Call, Transylvania, The Nutcracker in 3D, 1,000 Words, Left Behind, which we just took a look at, and that was about half the list of movies that have a 0% rating on here. 44 films have a 0% rating on this, and Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas is one of those movies. It was the lowest rated film on IMDb, and is widely considered one of the worst films ever made. And can you really blame him? And guess what? You know what Kirk Cameron's response is? You know, this is an atheist smear campaign. It's just like, fuck off, dude. This guy has completely gone down the rabbit hole, and we thought that this was going to be the worst of humanity when this guy is basically giving you 80 minutes of spewing his beliefs on you. This is like if one of those, if you walk around and a random person comes up to you, and then all of a sudden it seems normal first, but then he starts talking about the Lord and Jesus Christ, and he's wearing a shirt that looks like this, but then on the back of it there's like Christian quotes on it, and he's just like, you can't get away from this guy because he keeps blabbing on and on and on. That's what this movie is like. This is like a person stopping you from doing what you're doing, whether you're going to work, whether you're going shopping, whether you have to go to an appointment, and stopping you to talk about the Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Just like, you know, I think Jesus would have been more than fine of you avoiding this movie's existence. I mean, this is just a mess on so many levels. Some people could see it as a so bad it's good movie. I mean, it has been roasted several times, rightfully so, but it's a bad movie, man. It's a bad film, and just, I mean, like I said, it's right up there with some of the worst Christmas movies ever made. If that doesn't tell you enough to stay away from this movie, then quite frankly, I don't know what's going to tell you to do that, man. But hey, at least if you're going to still try to go see this garbage here, can I at least recommend you check out a good movie like our last film, Foxcatcher?
Need your help. Want to tell me what's going on? Hey, what did I just say?
Foxcatcher, rated R. Now playing select cities.
From director Bennett Miller, the same man that gave us Capote, we have Steve Carell, Channing Tatum, and Mark Ruffalo in the story about multi-millionaire DuPont family heir and restaurant and wrestling enthusiast John DuPont, played by Carell, and his 1986 recruitment of Olympic gold medalist Mark and Dave Schultz to help coach American wrestlers, and DuPont's murder of Dave in 1996. So not only are you getting a career-defining performance by Steve Carell at this point, but also Channing Tatum, who's having a strong year with 22 Jump Street, and then the Lego movie to start the year off, and then you have this film, and then Mark Ruffalo is in this movie. He's given a great performance. Vanessa Redgrave. A cast that also includes Sienna Miller, Anthony Michael Hall, Brett Rice, I thought it was Brian Baumgartner for a second, but no, this is not Kevin from The Office. Brock Lesnar's in here. He actually has a nice little cameo. But yeah, this is an outstanding movie. And it's working mostly because of the star power in this movie and just this defining performance by Steve Carell that just really knocks it out of the park, man, and shows that this guy is not just a funny guy. Kind of like with Rosewater, with Jon Stewart. Here you have a film where Steve Carell really is giving it his all with this performance and just knocks it out of the park, man. Mark Ruffalo is really good in this movie as well. Channing Tatum, like I said, is absolutely incredible in this. And this is the last thing that Bennett Miller did. The film he did before this was Moneyball, which is a great movie. And I'm wondering why he hasn't done anything since then. I guess he has a documentary coming, but what is this here? Layers upon layers of filmmaking Bennett Miller's AI-generated photos. Okay, maybe that's why he's not doing it, because he sadly has entered the world of AI, like a lot of people have, but the guy's still a great director. He's directed a couple of movies I really like, a couple good performances overall. The hell was that? I mean, even at 37 years old, I can still crack my voice here. I'm like a Sean McDonough from ESPN, you know, the all-time leading tackler in the history of the Chiefs. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch Monday Night Football in 2017 with the Chiefs and the Redskins, or the Commanders, as you youngsters out there know them for. But anyway, I'm getting completely off topic here. This is written by Dan Futterman, who also wrote A Mighty Heart. He's written a bunch of other movies we've talked about. This is a movie that really does work. I think it is a very well-made film, and it works because these performances are so good that you get so attached to it right away, and it's a great movie, man. It's an outstanding film. Definitely one of the year's best movies. Foxcatcher is definitely worth checking out. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we have one big new release this weekend. Sorry for my botched Hunger Games whistle right there, but it's the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, the third installment in the, actually Part 1 of the two-part final installment of the Hunger Games series. Hey, Harry Potter did it, Twilight did it, they were both successful, so clearly it can work with the Hunger Games, especially with how well the last movie worked, right? Well, not so much. We'll touch on that coming up tomorrow on the show, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.